My name is Andy Junkin. With me today is Scott Anderson of Cash Cow Farming. And Scott, you're in California today. Tell us about your software company and tell us what your history is.
Okay, well, I started a company called Cash Cow Farmer back in 2014 when the commodity prices crashed. And just a little bit about my background is, I grew up in northeastern South Dakota, a tiny little town called Andover that's about 97 people. And then after that, I went to college in Lincoln, Nebraska, uh, where I got to see Warren Buffett and Bill Gates do like a question and answers thing with the business students. Kind of fell in love with Warren Buffett and really liked the way he invested. And so I started to invest in stocks and stuff like that back when I was 19, 20 years old, and been doing that ever since for about 12 years. And then after college, I moved to New York City to work in investment banking and really get a understanding of agricultural business because my dad invented some farm equipment about 30 years ago. And so I kind of grew up working welding. I mean, most kids were playing baseball. My brother and I were in the factory welding and, assembling these Anderson opener. It was for grain farmers throughout the world. So my dad would always go around the world and speak about no-till farming and placement of the fertilizer below the soil and below the seed and stuff like that, which is kind of what his opener did. So yeah, I went to get a business education in Wall Street, and then came back to the farm in 2000, and then in 2014 started my software company. But the reason why I started it was because what I used to manage my farm and to get along with my dad in co-decision making at the beginning was financial data. And I would take everything that we did on our operation, break it down on a field by field level so that we knew exactly what was happening on our farm to a very detailed level. And, I could see how many family businesses, they kind of they have a stress point when it comes to making management decisions because they're not 100% sure what's the right decision is, especially when growing commodities. Because, for example, I was using a lot of spreadsheets before I had Cash Cow, before I had an actual software program. And I figured out that wheat was not productable versus corn and soybeans. And my dad was like a big wheat guy because his invention was mainly for small grains like wheat, canola and stuff like that. We grew 1/3 of our operation was wheat, and I showed him on my spreadsheets. I was like, Dad, this is how much money we're making on our cornfields.
Yeah.
This is our average profit on an acre of corn. This is our average profit on an acre of wheat. And so we dropped wheat back in like 2012 or 13. I can't remember which year exactly, and we dropped wheat and our profits went up, and Dad was pretty happy. And then another thing that happened that was pretty interesting was that we had this 1,000 acres of land that we rented, and we were about 4,000 acres at the time. And the landlords, in 2012, everybody got pretty excited about farming being like working out, paying like you were investment banking again. And so everybody got kind of greedy, and our landlord raised the rent. And, I was tracking everything on a field by field level so I could see, okay, this is how much money we're actually making on this farm after the rent raise. And then they wanted to raise rent again in 2014, and we actually dropped it in 2014, which was a good year to drop high rent stuff because in 2014, about the time harvest rolled around, most people were selling at a pretty low price. So, that's what helped us. And so I would share the spreadsheet with neighbor farmers and stuff. It was 27 pages long, so it was just enormous. And they're like, Scott, I can't figure out what's going on here. There's too many cells and formulas, and it's just too much crap going on here, Scott. And I'm like, all right. So I went to an event called Startup Weekend, which is kind of like a business entrepreneurial event with a technical focus. And I went there and I pitched. It was kind of like a combination between Shark Tank and a business incubator. And I pitched my idea. I had 1 minute to introduce myself, identify the problem, tell them my solution, and then who I needed to help build it.
Yeah.
Have you heard of Startup Weekend?
No, I would tell you between 2000 and 2004, after we had problems in my family farm, I started up a software company called ISO Farm. It went from, I started in the backseat of my car, went to $4 million valuation. And yeah, so I've been through the business startup process, and those weekends are you're lucky to be able to have a weekend like that where you're able to pitch. That was fantastic. And Ontario was really tough to raise money at that time when I started up that company. I think I was the only one in Canada to raise money that year for a business startup. I was actually told that. I found that out 2 years later that they said you raised money in 2002. I was like, yeah. They're like, how the hell did you do that? So
Jeez.
Yeah.
Well, this wasn't an event where you raised money. This was just an event where anybody that had an idea could draw from the audience,
That's
people to
awesome.
help them build it.
Yeah.
I've never actually raised money for Cash Cow. I've just bootstrapped it myself, and some of my co-founders, they all put in sweat equity.
Yeah.
And the developers put in a lot of sweat equity. And so when I sell Cash Cow or whatever happens with Cash Cow, I'll make sure that, I take care of those guys that help me from square one. So anyway, started Cash Cow at that weekend, and people were really excited to help me because for some reason, because I went to Minneapolis. They have these startup weekends all over the world. And I went to Minneapolis to do this, and I was like, these cities folks are not going to want to help us farmers. I was kind of almost didn't go pitch. And so at the last minute, I went up there and I wrote Cash Cow on a piece of paper because I had to think of a name and my name. And I gave my 1 minute deal. Hey, Scott Anderson, farmer from South Dakota. Used to work investment banking in New York. Problem facing farmers that they're horrible at marketing their grain because they don't know what their production costs are.
Yeah.
And I've put together a big spreadsheet, and I need to take my big spreadsheet and put it into an easy to use software program that's on the internet. They can access from anywhere. And I need computer programmers and web developers. And that was basically my 60-second pitch to the group of people that was out there at that business school, at Carlson School of Management at the U of M. And it was about 40 people that pitched, and they selected 12. And everybody in the audience, it's an interesting system how this works. Everybody in the audience got sticky notes. The business people got one color and the technical people got another color, because you wanted to have technical people voting on your business. Otherwise, you can't build it, right? Because us business people, we have great ideas, we've got no skills,
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, and people were really excited to work on Cash Cow, and that's where we kind of got the minimum viable product and just rolled with it from there, and been bootstrapping and knocking on doors ever since. Good
for you. That's good for you. And show us your software, and just in a few minutes, just show us like what the software looks and feels like. More importantly, just give us really what kind of competitive advantages a farmer would see as a result of using your software.
Okay, can you see my screen, Andy?
Yes, yeah. And
all right.
Because I don't. I'm not going to talk for the next minute because Google has this thing that if I talk, the screen goes off the main screen. So I'll be quiet here for a minute. You just go ahead and you give your pitch.
Okay. Well, I'll just share with you. I zoomed in a little bit because I'm not sure how easy this is to see. So I just zoomed in here. So this is, at the end of the day, what we want to know is exactly what each field costs to produce. The break even, which you can see right here, the screen column, which is the highlighted one, is break even. So what's it costing me to produce a bushel of corn, soybeans, wheat on every field? And then in general, you want to know how many bushels you're expected to produce given what's happening in your growing season. And then what's your weighted average cost of production? I mean, that's what we need to know in order to make good farming decisions. So right here,
Scott, the thing is, sorry to break in here, but
go ahead.
As a guy who I see everybody's numbers, and you would ask 99% of my customers right now that are very successful businesses, you walk on the farm and ask them what's the cost of production, they could not tell you that. It's crazy. And it's not like they're stupid people. They just, they're doing their accounting simply for the purposes of the taxes. And so the fact that what really attracted me to your software right off the bat is understanding your cost of production, because if you can get not just one family member, but multiple family members really understanding their cost of production, and then set a goal as to what you want to drive cost of production down, then you can see egos go out the door, and everybody just gets factual. Like you and your dad had an emotional attachment to wheat because of his history of manufacturing equipment for the no-till wheat market. But once you were able to get your cost production on a spreadsheet, his ego and his emotional attachment went out the door, and he made a rational business decision. I think that's really cool. Sorry to cut in 30 seconds in your pitch, but I just think that is where we need to go with farming.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you could imagine if Warren Buffett, like if Warren Buffett didn't know what was going on in his businesses financially, he wouldn't be able to tell, if they were doing the right thing or not. And, like it's like Apple with all Apple products out there, which one is making money, which one's losing money. So they need financial data to do that. So if you look down here, this is 4,371 acres of corn. You got average operating costs. Those operating costs are things that can't be applied to a specific field, like your labor and your fuel and your equipment expenses every year, repairs, things like that. Then you got overhead. Notice overhead varies dramatically. In some of these fields, overhead actually went negative because the costs, the overhead cost per field, which consists of your rents, your insurance, and things like that, gets offset by a hail payment and multi-peril insurance payment, which is what happened on this. The hail and multi-peril insurance payment actually offset that overhead cost by $115 an acre, and then you've got your seed, fertilizer, and chemical right here, and then you've got your yield right here, and then your break even. So some of these fields are a combination of land that's owned free and clear, land that's owned with debt, land that's rented, and land that's crop shared. So we've got 4 different economics here. Weighted average cost of production for corn is $2.77. And where I live, $2.77 cash price is actually, we're pretty happy with that, honestly. We're not getting, our basis on corn right now, I think is 70 or 77 cents. So that's pretty good. Right now we're looking at 66 cent basis, and this was yesterday's close on the Chicago Board of Trade, 375. So we're looking at 309 cash price. So what happens on the profitability here is it takes into account your marketing contracts. So in this crop year, for example, there was some aggressive marketing contracts that were made when things really peaked up. So you got some 386 cash, you got some 380 cash, you got some 381, and then there's some stuff that was sold at harvest. And then you've got the unsold inventory right here, 375,000 bushels at the board price minus your basis. So weighted average sale price is 327. So that's when you see that profitability, it's taking into account your actual marketing contracts there, and then it's giving you your profitability. So that's basically, I mean, there's a setup process in this. Obviously, you got to get each one of your fields in. You got to put in your inputs that you paid for fertilizer, seed, chemical. It doesn't take too long. I mean, I farmed 50 some fields, and the original setup was maybe 3 or 4 hours, and then our maintenance is, because every year it copies over and you just rotate your fields and whatnot. It's really not a lot of work, and then you can bulk apply your chemicals. When we're doing budgets with people, you can say, okay, I'm going to do this on all my corn for pre-emerge. I'm going to do this the second pass. Soybeans, I'm going to do this for pre-emerge, this second pass, and then these fields always get a third pass. So that's what I'm going to do it. You can apply it against all your fields for soybeans, or just select a couple fields and mass do that. So, I mean, at the end of the day, we need to know exactly how much money we're making and where we're making it. So if I break this down into dollars per field instead of cost per acre, why am I losing, $10,000-$12,000 on these fields and making $26,000 on these fields or whatnot? Really understanding what you're doing on a per acre basis. So, any questions, Andy?
I just for starters, how much extra profitability, since you've been only home for what, 5 years now?
Yeah.
Since 2014, so not even that. But the thing is, how much, as a result of you going through and developing the software, doing the crunching the numbers, how much extra profitability have you seen on your operation? I mean, that's pretty hard to quantify, obviously, with the variation in the markets. But have you quantified how much extra profit you've been able to get because of these strategic decisions as using this software?
Well, it's the only thing that I can do is figure out what other people are doing, because obviously what we're doing is working really well. I mean, we've made money every single year, and we've been fortunate. It hasn't been great, obviously, as in 2012 and 13 when anybody could make money, but the people who are making money when times are tough and whatnot, that they're doing something right. So I would say that the difference between my cost of production and many other people's cost of production is probably around 50 cents a bushel on corn and maybe $1 or $2 on soybeans. But it's the program just shows you what's happening in your business. You actually have to get out there and make the decisions and diagnose and figure out, okay, if my operating cost is crazy high, what do I need to do to get that down? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think that there's a lot of sons and daughters. They may I mean, I had a family farm. I remember in 2013, corn was $7 a bushel that day. So it was pretty much all-time high. And I insisted that they do a financial analysis of where they're at, because they were just spending money thinking that they had to because of capital gains. And their mother had dementia, and she was doing the books, and they had 3 different corporations. Now, they're at that table, there's 3 kids that had agriculture business degrees, and one daughter-in-law was a banker, and one son had a farm management diploma. So they're very intelligent people, and I think mom and dad both gone to University of Guelph as well and gotten their agriculture business degrees back in the 70s. So very intelligent people, and viewed as very successful. And they thought it was a waste of time with that. I insisted that they had somebody come in and do the financial analysis, but they were actually losing $200 an acre that day. And you want to talk about the whole atmosphere of that family changing, is they didn't know their cost of production, and it was partially because of mom's dementia, and just it was complicated bookkeeping, and they've been doing bookkeeping just for the purpose of simply tax strategy. And I think a software like yours can really help a family understand their cost of production and get everybody really focused on making decisions based on their cost of production. I think it's fantastic. What are you helping people with commodity marketing decisions as well, or just simply cost production?
Yeah, we just started doing commodity marketing as well. So I've been back since 2010, started Cash Cow in 2014, and in 2016 we started doing grain marketing. And the reason why we did this is because in 2012 and 13, when things were tough, I was making terrible grain marketing decisions, myself. And I thought I knew everything coming from investment banking, And so basically I was working with a really good grain marketing advisor, and I was like, well, why don't we work together? Why don't there's every one of our farmers, when I asked them what their number one challenge is, it's grain marketing. And so how can we work together so that, your services can be applied to our farmers? And we started offering grain marketing and like a personal approach to grain marketing as well.
Really? And how are you working with the families now in that grain marketing capacity? Is it just one individual working with one individual at each farm, or is it the whole family, or how do you work with the team?
We work with all the decision makers, basically. So whoever's making decisions on grain marketing, that's who we work with.
Okay.
And so it's me and our grain marketing partner. His name is Randy. And so basically with Randy, we sit down, we look at their cost of production. Like they got to be using the software, in order to figure out what their break even is. And then our analyst, the market doesn't care. At the end of the day, the market doesn't care what your break even is. You just got to try and get your break even as low as possible. So what we do is we plan out a strategy depending on their marketing facilities. So for example, you may have a farmer that doesn't have any grain storage. Your cost of production, doesn't matter for for your grain marketing stuff. The market, we just got to figure out where the strengths and weaknesses are in the markets, and where the points of strength and resistance are in the market. So we have an analyst that we work with on that. And so we figure out, when does the farmer need to sell based on cash flow? What's their insurance guarantee that we can market in the cash markets, and then we can cover the rest with options? What's their comfort level with using futures and options? And then, do they have grain storage? So do they need to sell all their grain at harvest, or can they take half of it, and then we can take advantage of basis? And then what's their local basis? What's the trend with basis and stuff like that? So marketing, even though you can get good advice on when to buy and sell, without doing a personal approach, the fact is most people don't actually take the advice unless they're in a more personalized program. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. Well, Scott, where are you guys going next with Cash Cow?
Well, I'm doing a lot of stuff outside of Cash Cow in regard to like asset management, and so eventually we may come in, and we're getting more and more involved all the time. Farmers ask us to help them put their data in, so it might be like a full-on like farm management consulting operation. And then secondly, with the investments and stuff that I do outside of farming, we may actually invite some of our customers to consider doing that, because at the end of the day, a good manager is just an asset manager. You're managing your human assets, you're managing your mechanical assets, your land, and your cash. And so when you make a lot of money on the farm, sometimes that means everybody's making money. And so when everybody's making money and there's a lot of money spreading around farming, there's not good return on investment at that point. And so how do you grow your asset base without investing in farmland at the wrong time? Because you have money when everybody else has money in most situations. So figuring out what to do with your assets, kind of a financial planning is another part that we're considering, doing.
That's very cool. Very cool. Well, with Scott, how does people get a hold of you, look at your software online, and also how do they get a hold of you?
Okay. cashcowfarmer.com is our website. And then Scott@cashcowfarmer.com is my email. People can email me. That'd be great.
What's your phone number there, Scott?
402-304-6017. That's my cell number. What the heck is our phone number? Don't you hate that?
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
All right. Our phone number is 605-622-0208. I had to look it up on the website.
Well, thanks a lot, Scott. It's good. It was really good to talk to you. I really think I really like your software. I see a lot of different software products, and I think it's really, really simple, but it's a lot of value. So let's keep in touch. And this has been the Business Culture of Agriculture. My name is Andy Junkin. I'd like to thank Scott Anderson of Cash Cow Farmer for joining us on the show today. You take care and God bless.